You're hurt, you're overwhelmed, and now the trucking company is calling you with a settlement offer. You haven't even seen all your medical bills, and they're already trying to close the case. And if you accept too soon, you could lose your right to compensation for future treatment, missed wages, lost work, long-term pain and suffering. We're Indiana personal injury attorneys Chris Blackburn and Chad Romey, and we've handled hundreds of truck accident cases, and we're going to walk you through the basic fundamentals of what to do and what to avoid on the critical day after your crash. So you can protect your claim, stay in control of your recovery, and make sure you're not left footing the bill for someone else's mistake. So it's been a while since we've been here, Chad.
Yeah.
What's one of the first things that we should do when you're in a truck accident?
Well, in the opening there, we talked about what we're going to be doing in the days following, but obviously there's stuff to do at the scene itself. So if you're capable of, if you're seriously injured in a truck accident, a lot of this is not going to apply. But if you can, move to a safe area. Right. This is just common sense. That's not legal advice, but move to a safe area. That doesn't necessarily mean moving your car to a safe area. Sometimes it's important that the evidence stays where it needs to be. But if you can move away from the accident scene, do that. If it's safer to do so than staying in there. Obviously, turn on your hazard lights on your vehicle. And then even if it's just minor injury that you're feeling, call 911. If you're feeling no injury and you're injured and you were in an accident with a truck, call 911. Get the police to the scene so that they can document.
I think one of the smartest things I've seen people do in accidents on major highways is really they get off the road and you'll sometimes see them up sitting there on the embankment. That's probably the safest position you can put yourself in because that traffic's not going to stop. Reminds me of a time where my family and I were coming back from South Dakota. We got into an accident on I-80. Snowy conditions at the time. Our vehicle went off the roadway, hit a patch of ice, and there actually happened to be a van that probably hit the same patch. We rear-ended them. I was fine, checked on the family, everyone else was fine, but one of the first thoughts I had was, oh my gosh, if I hit this same patch of ice and then that person hit that same patch of ice that I just ran into, someone might hit this. And the big concern at that time was, we've got to get out of this vehicle and get to safety. We couldn't do that. It was freezing, but that should be kind of the main essence of safety first.
Yeah. And sometimes EMTs will show up to the scene, and it's always good to at least talk to them, even if you're not feeling anything, because adrenaline can mask a lot of stuff. So safety first after a trucking accident.
Should you call the police?
Absolutely. Injuries or no, get the police to the scene. Indiana law requires you can't just leave the scene, right? So you need to report accidents, especially with significant damage and injuries. So a police report can not necessarily going to become evidence in a trial, but it's certainly going to help document, hey, who was there at the scene? What were the basic facts? Police might take photos as well, and so that's really important.
Yeah, it gets a little bit more complicated when you have these bigger trucking accidents. Of course, semis are subjected to a little bit of a higher standard. So the other thing too is with some of these more severe accidents, they already have their legal team ready to go and on standby. So it's not uncommon for the lawyer and the insurance representatives to show up on scene and start taking photographs. So it really puts motorists in Indiana, our clients, at a disadvantage because if they're the ones hurt and they're not able to document, while at the same time, the trucking company and their lawyers are already preparing the case for a potential trial. So if you can take photographs, document, don't talk to anybody. Those are probably one of the main things.
Yeah, and when it comes to photographs, I always make sure you're taking more than you think are necessary. So sometimes if you're in an accident, you're going to take a close-up picture of your bumper or of your headlights or whatever the case may be. But it's always good to take pictures from further away as well because those tell a different story. They tell positioning of vehicles and the like.
Our little tip here too, if you're in a truck accident and you're feeling fine, you're not incapacitated, I think you want to watch what the other driver's doing. If you start noticing people show up where you're just not sure who they are, that could be a tell for you. One of the main things with some of these newer trucks, if they start moving them or someone is going in that isn't the driver, you should probably document that. I would encourage you to take photos and video of that because that'll tell a story later on down the road of, okay, well, who are these people and why are they showing up and what are they doing inside the truck and why are they moving in?
All right. So get medical treatment. Even if you feel fine, many injuries appear hours or days later. We're not telling you to go seek medical treatment if you know for sure you weren't hurt. But it's always good to at least get checked out, and especially get checked out if you start to feel something the next day or the day after, because sometimes injuries just don't present themselves right away. A lot of injuries are not broken bones sticking to the skin, right? They're damage to your spine, which again can take a couple days to present.
This is probably the biggest tip we can give our viewers. The biggest defense, the easiest defense is gaps in treatment. So whether it's a day or 3 weeks, we hear it all the time from the insurance companies. Oh, well, your client didn't get treatment for 3 weeks following the accident. It can be tough to overcome, especially in a jury trial, because people will wonder sometimes, well, yeah, that's right. Well, they're the one bringing the claim here, or they're the ones that filed suit. Well, why didn't they go to a doctor for 3 weeks or 4 weeks? So if you do have those injuries, it's good to get checked out just because it'll help document your file.
Yeah, a lot of people will grin and bear it. Just because you don't treat for 3 weeks doesn't mean it took 3 weeks for the pain to show up. But a lot of people just think, gosh, it's not super painful right now. Maybe I can just wait because I don't want to go to the doctor. I have to go to work. I don't want to incur that bill. It doesn't work like that in front of a jury necessarily. You might not get credit for trying to tough it out. You might just say, hey, if you would have gone to the doctor, maybe you would be better earlier. Or you didn't go to the doctor because you weren't hurt. All right, so just get to the doctor if you need to. Early documentation helps protect your claims. All right, and if you end up being fine, that's great. That's what you're hoping for. But if you don't, then that early treatment does help. Next, I would say after a trucking accident, don't talk to the trucking company or their insurer alone. Adjusters are many times going to call you the next day or within hours of an accident. As soon as they know who you are, so they're going to call you.
Sometimes pretty aggressively.
Yeah, they want to call you, tell you, hey, for us to process your claim, you have to cooperate with us. And that's not necessarily true. So don't talk to them on your own right away.
I always like to say with the adjusters, what they're trying to do is get your recorded statement because of the way that our law is structured here in Indiana. It's comparative fault. We've talked about that in some of our other videos. What they're wanting to do is get your statement. They'll tell you that they need it in order to open the claim. I usually tell my clients they don't need it, they just want it. And what they're trying to do is obviously get their evidence ahead of time. So with comparative fault, Chad, you want to briefly talk about comparative fault, why that's important?
Yeah, comparative fault. So if a truck driver, runs the stop sign or runs through the stop light, if you will, and hits you, they're going to be at fault for that. But what the trucking companies or the insurance companies want to do is to put some of the fault on you. Well, gosh, you came out into the intersection too fast, even though your light was green, or you were speeding through the intersection, even though your light was green. And so they're trying to get you to be 10, 20, 30, 40% at fault, which is just it's like a coupon for them. It's a discount. Doesn't mean that you are at fault if the other guy runs a red light, but they're just looking for negotiating leverage. They're looking for something to try to pin fault on you. Their goal is not to protect you. Their goal is to protect their insured, which is the trucking company. And I'm not saying that even that they're doing something. Yeah, they're not doing something wrong, but that is the contract that they have with the carrier, with the trucking company. So that is just something to be careful of when you're giving that statement. It's not innocent. It's not just, we're just gathering some facts. They are gathering facts, but they're trying to do so in a way that doesn't help you. It helps them.
Which kind of brings us to our next point. What you can do to really even the playing field is you can talk to an experienced Indiana trucking attorney like Chad and I for free. You don't have to talk to, and we encourage you not to talk to the insurance company and the representatives, the insurance companies at any point. I think it's within your best interest if you talk to a lawyer for your case and get a consultation. Most lawyers who do the type of work that we're doing are going to set up a free consultation. If they're not, then there's plenty of them out there. The vast majority are, so you might want to move on. But why that's important to you is if it's a free consultation, you can go into that conversation, maybe not necessarily looking to hire or retain a lawyer, but you can ask questions about what you should and shouldn't be doing, or specific scenarios where, okay, this happened. What do you think about that? Certainly a lot of people that call us are already looking for representation, but we talk to a fair amount of people every day who are just looking for a little bit of advice on what to do about their case, how to handle the insurance company, things that they should and should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, insurance companies have strategy to try to resolve claims, and you need to have one too. It's just that theirs has been worked out over thousands and thousands of cases and decades of experience, and yours is going to be figured out on the fly. So if you get a call from an insurance company after your accident, just say, hey, I'm not interested in talking right now. I'm going to seek legal representation, even if you just want to have a discussion, even if you're not going to retain one. just politely decline to give any recorded statements to the other party's insurance company. So the other reason you want to contact a lawyer pretty quickly is because there is evidence that can disappear. What kind of evidence can disappear after a trucking accident?
One of the best things that an attorney can do for you is setting out what we call letter of preservation. The evidence, not only your physical injury, so if you've got cuts, scrapes, abrasions, or if you have a surgery, you're going to heal. If you don't take pictures and document that, that evidence goes away. However, when it comes to the accident itself, preservation letter can help you because it's going to require the defendant's truck to be preserved in a manner that will allow an attorney and an expert to download the data from the truck. That data is going to be important and crucial, especially in a disputed liability case where if they're disputing liability and they're saying, hey, it wasn't our fault, looks like your client's at fault, the data may prove otherwise, but we've got to be able to preserve that. So if you get into a truck accident case and it's now a year and a half later, your statute runs in 2 years, that evidence is probably gone. We're probably not in a position where we're going to be able to get our expert retained, go inspect the truck, take pictures, download the black box, and then use that data to make the argument that, well, this isn't my client's fault.
Yeah. And another thing is that the earlier somebody is involved on your side investigating, it's not always super simple or clear who the other side is. So you might see the name on the side of the truck, but many times there are many entities involved in the transportation of whatever is being shipped. And so you do want to find who all the players are. And the quicker you can do that, getting those letters of preservation or saying, hey, don't destroy your stuff. You want to get those out as quickly as you can. So
even our law firm, our lawyers here, we find we have these cases where, as good as we are at the investigation and having access to different databases, we're either don't know who all the players are, or we're not certain. And one of the best ways to protect the client, but then also get that information is to file a lawsuit. That really levels the playing field, and it's going to allow the client to be protected so that we can get the appropriate parties. We get in those situations quite a bit.
So one of the important things we're doing is trying to gather and preserve evidence. One thing you want to do is make sure you're not creating evidence that can come back to harm you. And I'm talking about publicly discussing your case, right? So social media, I mean, most people anymore, if they get in an accident, they're going to post a picture of their car on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. That's pretty common. And so we encourage folks to don't do that, because I can't tell you how many times I've had a client post the picture of their car and then just say something like, thank God everybody's okay. What they mean by that, because they've hired me for a reason at this point, they're injured. What they mean by thank God everybody is okay is thank God nobody got killed. They don't mean thank God everybody is injury free. Mm-hmm. But those types of comments, if you don't have obvious, clear injuries, broken bones sticking through skin, but you have sore neck, those types of comments, thank God everybody is okay, can be interpreted. The day of the accident, you said you were fine. The day after, you said you were fine. So be really careful what you're putting out on social media. I'd prefer you just turn off all your social media as soon as you were in an accident. Oh, insurance companies are looking at that stuff.
And lawyers are very crafty in mischaracterizing and trying to paint pictures and posts in a manner that is not necessarily true. Chad and I have lots of stories. I'll give you one for example, because it's somewhat comical, but Chad's got a couple of them that are absolutely hilarious from the social media perspective. But when it comes to damages, my client was testifying about things that he could and couldn't do anymore. So I think the question was, okay, Mr. So-and-so, what are some of the things that you can't do anymore because of this accident? And he said, well, I just can't mountain bike anymore. I don't have the ability to mountain bike anymore because of his injuries. And it was maybe true, maybe not true, but his social media after the accident, he had posted a picture where his topic or subject was, and he posted a picture too. Well, mountain biking today, darn tree jumped out in front of me, and he had this big goose egg on his forehead. So you got a scenario where he hurt his case a lot. He's testifying and saying, well, I can't mountain bike anymore. Completely forgot about this post. Defense lawyers actually had the post, and then at the end of the deposition, gave it to my client, and of course, he had a hard time explaining that away. That case settled pretty quickly, yeah. But a great example of how social media can really hurt and damage your case.
Yeah, and I think in what my example is that juries might misinterpret.
True.
Yeah, your example was they interpreted it sounds like fairly accurately, or they were going to. So, but I think that when people who are really into mountain biking say, I can't mountain bike anymore, sometimes really what they mean by that is, I just don't get to do it like I used to do it. And so I had a client who didn't post it on social media, but he said, I never get to ride my bike anymore. I never ride my bike anymore. And when his wife testified, a bicycle, he was an avid bicyclist. When his wife testified, she said, yeah, he still rides his bicycle about 60 miles a week. And obviously, he's saying, I never do it anymore. She's saying 60 miles a week. What he means is, I used to do it 400 miles a week. And so to him, 60 miles is nothing. He was a very, very likable person, and everybody figured out what he meant by it. But things can be interpreted the wrong way if you put stuff on social media. So just don't.
Yeah, big idea. Save yourself the hassle. If you don't do it, then you don't have to explain anything away potentially down the road.
Yeah. After a trucking accident, document all your damages and expenses. So if you're getting prescriptions, keep those receipts. If you are experiencing pain, for the purposes of discussing with your lawyer, keep a journal. Say, hey, these are the troubles that I was having during this period of time, because sometimes these cases don't settle until 5 years down the road. I mean, that's unusual, but that's not uncommon. So if you can document those early days, especially, so that when you're going back to talk to your lawyer about it or to testify about it, you can refresh your memory with what you went through.
Yeah, I think regardless whether you have a lawyer or not, it's a working relationship with your attorney. And if you do it by yourself, you have a kind of a working relationship with the insurance company, but you're going to have to provide documentation. Some of the better clients are really organized, and they'll give us spreadsheets of the dates of treatment that they've had, a listing of their doctors, helps us to verify and not miss any bills and records when we're requesting those. Lost wages is a big one, especially if you're self-employed. That can be a little bit difficult. But if you're self-employed and you have to hire someone to do the job for you, you're going to want that documentation in terms of receipts, things like that. But the more documentation you have and the better organized it is, it's going to help you at the end of the day.
The point is you want to be patient. These things can take a while. It's hard to be patient after a trucking accident if you're out of work. Gosh, I can't be patient because I got bills to pay. The bank isn't going to be patient for my mortgage. But you have to be patient, understanding that this process can take a while, especially if your physical recovery takes a while. In a trucking case, your physical recovery almost always is going to occur before the financial recovery, right? Because it's so rare that they will be ready to settle before you're at maximum medical improvement. So be patient, stay engaged. They take a while because they're complex. They take a while because a lot of money is involved many times. And sometimes insurance companies are going to try to delay just because they want to hang on to their $1 million before handing it over to you for as long as they can. That is not to say that your case is necessarily worth $1 million, but lots of times there's a significant amount of money that's going to change hands at some point here. So remember, Indiana law is here to help you. At the very least, it's here to guide kind of how the process works. But you do have to follow the steps of putting yourself strategically in the best position. You are in a negotiation with a multi-billion-dollar insurance company. They know what they're doing. So if you're patient, keep good records, you're going to have a much better shot at the full recovery that you need and that you deserve. So let's sum it up. You know exactly what you should do after being injured in a truck accident. Protect yourself and others. Call the police to the scene. Document everything, pictures, videos, get names of witnesses, get the medical care that you need promptly. Don't grin and bear it. Avoid speaking to the trucking company's insurance adjusters on your own, and then contact an experienced attorney right away. And we say experienced because a lot of attorneys will want to handle a trucking case because they might see big dollars. But if they've never done it, that is not the firm for you. That is not the attorney for you. These are difficult, complex cases. And then, of course, keep track of all your damages. These steps can make all the difference as you pursue that claim. If you found this helpful, definitely watch our next video, which is it worth it to hire a lawyer after a minor car accident, right? Good segue. So if you're here talking about trucking accidents or very minor accidents, I guess we handle both of those. We do, yeah. So it breaks down what most insurance companies don't want you to know about handling smaller crashes on your own. And when you're at risk of losing out by skipping legal help, don't miss it. Click over there right now, right on that link. All right,
See you there.
Yeah.